The whole point of branding, right, so activating a different perception, is to do things differently. But most of these leaders and most of these organizations, they try to replicate what already worked, because in business we like safe.
How do you define branding? Why should businesses give a shit about it?
Brand is the perception. Branding is how you manage that perception.
Today's guest is Martin Zarian, a full-stack brand builder, award-winning strategist, and a LinkedIn top voice. He works with businesses in complex, saturated markets, from global names like FIFA, eBay, and Dr. Richter, to fast-growing scale-ups across tech, finance, and SaaS, helping them stop blending in and start winning.
Personally, a bit of a mix. I was born in Armenia. My mom is Estonian. I grew up in Italy, so my passport is Italian, and my accent and my inability to talk without gesturing too much also comes from that side. The average human takes 3,000 decisions every single day. Plus, we see on an average 7,000 to 10,000 brands daily. We are overstimulated, overscrolled, tired, itchy eyes, back of the head, migraines.
How do you think that will impact on branding in the foreseeable future? For people who don't know about you and like what you're about, and they've never come across your stuff, which would be highly unlikely, but let's just say in the off chance that they didn't, what would they need to know about you, and who is Martin? We would just start there, just give a little bit of background on who you are.
So personally, a bit of a mix. I was born in Armenia. My mom is Estonian. I grew up in Italy, so my passport is Italian, and my accent and my inability to talk without gesturing too much also comes from that side. Most of my career and smaller, bigger, medium-sized projects, and a lot of the stuff that I learned, it's thanks to my experience in the UK, in London. Where I transitioned, let's say, from graphic design to brand identity, and then in the last couple of 10 years more or so into brand strategy as well. And then a few years back, I moved to Cyprus, where I opened my own agency called Factory 39, which is a bunch of lovely geeks. Half of these geeks are specialized in brand building, and the other half of these lovely geeks are specialized in software development. So naturally, we tend to solve complex problems, whether in the relationship to marketing, branding, positioning, and strategy on how to win complex and saturated market from the brand side, or to develop big infrastructure, technological infrastructure from the software side. We work with companies like eBay, DHL, UPS. Very boring in terms of work. So it's not the cool AI or quantic, but very, 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 very critical. There is zero room for mistakes, to the point that, like, if there is a single line of code that goes wrong, it's like millions down the line, in terms of revenue lost for this organization. From the brand side, we work with two types of companies: either the startup that is ready to become a grown-up, right, or the Dr. Octer, the Manfrotto, the Sharp, the Mosquitas, the bigger organization that are doing fairly well for the last 15, 20, even 70 years, and now something happens. There is a change on the horizon. Right. Whether the organization evolved, the brand stayed behind, so there is a mismatch between what we do and who we are and how we perceived. New competitor, new market, new acquisition, new mergers, new locations, yalla, yalla, yalla. Whatever the change, whatever the reason for the change, we are the one that we make sure that change is successful. So some people call us branding agency. In reality, we are change makers. Whether there is an opportunity and a need for change, we make sure that change happens in the best possible way to benefit everyone in the organization.
Amazing. So SaaS, very focused on SaaS software companies.
Yeah, we are deliberately sector agnostic. We never wanted to focus and niche down. I don't believe in niching down. I don't believe in having one skill. I'm actually a generalist by trade. I specialized in strategy in the last couple of years, and most of my best performing team members as well, they're usually people that transition career. I have a huge respect for someone that transition, that brings a different set of skills from somewhere else. I think the future belongs to the people that are able to connect different realms of expertise into the one single solution. So the solution can be an arrow, a straight line, but how we go there is kind of like a funneling of different information. So because we build tech and we speak tech and we understand tech and the terminology and the lingo of tech builders, we tend to attract a lot of SaaS and a lot of tech first organization. But we've done a branding for a traditional souvlaki place, which was always a dream of mine recently.
That's my favorite food, man. Now we're talking.
Yeah, man, it's like simple and tasty. I'm an Armenian, right? So we don't do souvlaki, we do shashlik, like the Russian would say it, but on the sword, right? And horovats. It's the same concept. Good pieces of chunks of meat marinated over the charcoal, very simple. And then whatever the bread you want to call it. It's a big contamination, that area of the world. Like we call it souvlaki, but then there are different names for a very similar plate. And we've done that. We've done events. We've done tech. We are working with organizations like BBF now, which is one of the biggest player in the real estate in Cyprus, lifestyle real estate. We're working with Mosquita, which is one of the biggest heavy industry brand in Cyprus. So deliberately sector agnostic, but very solution focused in the terms of what we do, right? So the problem we solve are very similar, but we operate in all different markets because we don't want to suffer of tunnel vision either, right? We want to stay creative.
Yeah, and also geographically, you probably do a lot of work like internationally, but obviously Cyprus is not that a big of a place, so you kind of can cover a lot of broad things. And I've seen you also have your own SaaS, like you've created your own SaaS company.
Yeah,
you're co-founder of that as well. So
that's right.
You're doing many projects and also championing a lot of different projects at the same time.
Yeah, we do. We built Balabook, our accounting software, in the last couple of years. And Nas, one of our toxic traits at Factory 39 is when we don't like something, we say, let's just screw it. Let's just do it ourselves. Right? We keep saying that because we have the capabilities, right? Erhum strategy, we have design, UI, UX, front-end development, back-end development. So we have all the different in-house. We have the components to actually build anything. And a couple of years ago, me and Zen, my business partner, we were looking into an accounting solution, a smart accounting solution for to run our books, to take track of everything and have a good financial understanding of our year. And we couldn't find any. All we could find in Cyprus were glorified Excel sheets developed 20 years ago. I'm not gonna make names, but like we couldn't find it. We said, let's do it, and we've done it. We've done it for ourselves. And since then, we marketed it, we sell it, and we're doing really well with that in terms of our own startup.
Amazing. So you said in the last few years, it's been shift towards more brand. That's kind of where your personal brand has gone, right? Because you've not only built successful brands, but I think the thing that I find very interesting about you're one of the top voices in Cyprus, if not the top voice. You can correct me. Mm-hmm. And you've also built a very large personal brand. You have a podcast. You're doing so much activity. So is that how do you define branding, and like why should businesses even give a shit about it? Like why do they care about branding?
Yeah,
let's define it. I mean, I'd love to define like how you see it, because I want to make sure that we're understanding the same things that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a very loaded question, right? Because already in this couple of minutes of the conversation we mentioned branding, and personal brand, right? So which in reality might be a bit anal, but there are three different things. When we're talking about starting with brand is the perception that you have in regards to an organization, a person, or a service, right? And you do not decide to be a brand. You are a brand. You exist. You have a perception, and that perception becomes your brand. The moment that your product, service, or offering leaves the HQ and interacts with a human beyond your HQ, it creates a perception. That perception is the brand, right? So what people feel, and most importantly, the shortest form of the definition that I like in the last couple of years that I landed on is why you matter. Why you matter more than anyone else. Why should customer care about you? Why should investor care about you? Why should employees care about you? Why you matter more than anyone else, even if the product is the same. And that's really, really important. We can go in that a bit later. Branding is how you manage that perception through messaging, communication, behavior, website, any single touch point. Even when you pick up the phone, how you pick up the phone, your voice, your cadence, what you say, that's part of a vector that creates a perception that becomes your brand. And I'll make you an example. Everything matters. Back in the days, a couple of years ago, me and my girlfriend wanted to go for a fish tavern here in Cyprus. It was winter. It was a sunny day, but it was winter. It was a Sunday, and local tavernas are notoriously bad in updating their Google hours, right? So we Googled it. Looks open, and I said, "Listen, before driving 45 minutes to see, and then it's closed. Let's call." And I called and I said, "Hi, Herete, είμαστε τέσσερα. We want to come for lunch. Are you guys open?" And the gentleman says, "I pick up the phone. What do you think?" And I'm like,
Very, very
wow,
simple response.
wow. And I put down the phone, and no one would be surprised that not only we did not go, we told all our friends not to go to that place. And now it becomes one of my key stories as well when I'm trying to explain how every, even apparently insignificant touch point helps build that perception, right? So brand is the perception. Branding is how you manage the perception through action, activity, design, creativity, and everything. And then we have that other component, which is personal branding. Personal branding is, again, why you matter to other as a person, and how you are perceived, right? So what people will say about you when you're not in the room. That's how Jeff Bezos defines brand, but it also works for personal branding. And the reason I think why people should look into it, because personal branding, same as brand, happens anyway, right? Even during this podcast, people listening to it and seeing me, they will start formulating an opinion about me. Whatever they say, that is my personal brand. They might say I'm a dick. They might say I'm bullshitting. They might say that I'm great. Whatever they say, that will become my personal brand, right? And I think it's very, very important, because personal brand happens anyway, and it will never die. Even when you, as a physical presence, leave this earth, you will leave a legacy, right? And that legacy, again, is your personal brand. But also, it's a continuous, never-ending story made of different chapters. Today, I am at Balabook and Factory 39. Maybe in 10 years, I'm somewhere else, right? So the profession changed, our experience changed, but the personal brand remains always the same. And I think everyone should look into it, because cultivating your personal brand and your personal image in an authentic and real way will give you the best opportunities in life. As soon as I started being strategic about the development of my personal brand, I had the best job offers, I hired the best people, I made my best friends, I got the best projects, I became a LinkedIn top voice, I got invited to events, podcasts, and everything. As soon as I started putting everything together, being strategic but authentic, right? So these are the two important elements. So tactile, like in a tactical way, but never in non-authentic tactical way, right? So it always needs to be authentic. Everything started to happen, and I think it's a shame for us, if you're a founder of an SME or a CEO, or you're a solopreneur or whatever. It's a shame if you're not a bit more strategic and a bit more how do you say,
Active.
Active, yes, thank you. Yeah, active, present from your personal brand, because that it's a big help for whatever your goal in life, personally or professionally, are.
Definitely. And I think it shows that a lot of the top guys about branding, they talk about that, right? Like within 6 months you can be from zero in 6 months to somewhere completely different, and that is leveraging branding and personal branding. I think just a few things that I want to replay as you were talking, I was processing.
Yeah.
And a couple of things that I noted in my mind when you're talking was like, you talk about the personal brand being the representation or the brand. We can talk about two different things. They both happen anyway. Branding happens more authentically by your interactions, because there's more touch points in general with a business than there will be with an individual. There can be more touch points. Like with me, there would probably be less touch points, but with the brand, there would be more. But I'm also getting like a huge overlap the way I understand, because I used to be in coaching and consulting in the past. So for me, I understand branding is also like what you're saying is like, okay, that's all that also fits in the culture, right?
Oh
That
yeah.
becomes a very big culture conversation. But how do you get that culture externally? The culture is almost externally facing. Like, how does the brand then interact? But it's all the kind of the, if you imagine the the iceberg analogy, like that's all happens
Yeah.
underneath, and the branding kind of shoots up. Is that kind of what we're just want to like check in? Like, is that kind of how I'm hearing it?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, spot on. One of the most beautiful quotes in relation to brand, I think it comes from Simon Dixon, which is the founder, one of the biggest, best agencies in the UK, that says that how well a brand is understood externally depends from how well it's understood internally. The iceberg analogy. We might see a website, we might have a beautiful exchange with the shop floor level of a huge Fortune 500 organization that makes us feel in a specific way that is being engineered, that is being designed by a specific strategy, and that happens internally. Any type of work of brand change that we do, there is one non-negotiable rule, which is the following: we first brand internally. We make sure that the whole organization is aligned into one single direction: purpose, mission, vision, strategy. We are 10,000 employees that speak one vocabulary. We are 10,000 employees coming from 10,000 different paths that now is traveling into one single direction. That is the most important thing. You cannot have a successful external brand if you first do not have a successful internal brand. And it's super, super important. Sure, the consumer might see 1% of that, but everything else is being done internally to create that perception. And similarly for the personal brand as well, it's
Yeah.
like that. There is a lot of internal work, even like I'm sure with your coaching work as well, right? So there's a lot of internalization first, then to be able to externalize that.
So I love that. So tactically, right? Say
Yeah,
I'm, I got a business making half a million a year, a couple of million a year. How can I
yeah.
tactically take that insight? Because I love that and it makes total sense. But how can I make that tactical for, say, someone who's listening that really wants to take that go? Like, yeah, I want to build that and start to build my because we're talking about culture and branding being the external facing part of it. How can I? What's some strategies or things that you've noticed just from because you have a culture, you've got a big team there as well.
Yeah.
How can we do that tactically?
I think at the beginning, kind of culture happens organically. Usually, is a reflection of the founder's philosophy to life and to work, right? But the more this culture grows, the more things change. The more we have flexible working, remote working, the more we need to be careful on how to shape it more strategically, right? That's why most of the work we do is at the intersection of change, startup to grown up, or established organization from chapter 15 to chapter 16 of their life, right? So we sit in there. And I think it's like any other project, in terms of how would you approach any other project, right? You want to start analyzing first. I'll tell you our process, right? Our process is like, we start, first of all, understanding if you are a good match, because we're going to have to spend a lot of time together, and you're going to have to trust us, we're going to have to trust you. We have our processes, we want to make sure that you trust us enough to help us run our processes, because we know they will work. But a lot of time, deeply involved founders or family brands, or family organization, they have sometimes a difficulty to let go and have external people coming in. So I want to make sure that we are able to do our best work, and we do our best work when we're able to follow our process. And we always start with an audit. Say pretty much the same way you wouldn't want to go to a doctor and ask him for the prescription of the previous patient. You don't want to go to a brand strategist or consultants and ask him whatever they done to the previous project, right? They want to make sure that they have an understanding of your strengths, your weaknesses, your history, where you're going, what you've done, and all, like a 360 degrees understanding of where you guys are at. And that's the audit phase for us. We leave no stones unturned. We use social listening, we have metrics tool, we do interviews, we do qualitative analysis. Like, it takes a really long time, and usually the outcome is like 150 pages document that has a 360 degrees analysis of brand and marketing, and what works and what doesn't work. That also gives us an idea. Okay, Torah must stay here. Now we are here. We need to go there. what do we have that works really well? XYZ work, Y, K, and F needs to be fixed, and we are completely missing these points. So when we go as a brand strategist and try to build the brand strategy in order to make the vision a reality for this organization, we do not act like ground zero. We don't go there and just throw grenade, Molotovs, raise everything to the floor and build up, because that will be a waste. We keep what's working, we fix what needs to be fixing, and we build what is missing. That's the audit. And in terms of strategy, like and in terms of culture especially, one thing, the other non-negotiable rule is that we need to have all the key people of the organization into these workshops, into this process. If me, you, and the CEO of the organization sit down and do a new strategy, again, it will not happen. The people bringing it to life, mid floor, second floor, floor level, they need to be involved. We usually have the CEO, the CTO, the CFO, HRs, product, sales, design, marketing, brand. We have a really good representation of these people in the room for 2 days to work on a series of workshops and facilitated strategic programs that we developed based on the audit. Right? So everyone is in there, and this is also goes through a very famous Japanese concept that if you want the person 10 seats from you understand what you're doing, you need to also involve all the other 9 seats in the middle or 8 seats in the middle, right? So it's a ping pong effect. So you buy knowledge and you buy understanding and you make a series of friends. So then when the change needs to be happening, it's not only you or the CEO pushing it, it's a group of people that become brand advocate, and that's the internal branding starts to happen, right? So then we can go externally. And once we have the brand strategy, once we have the business strategy, which are the different strands of the same DNA helix, then we understand what we need to do externally. Do we need to update our messaging, our storytelling, our visual assets, our website, our application, or the way that we operate, right? So it's a step-by-step process, and that will help this organization, have a brand strategy and a purpose that will last for a really, really long time. Because then the key point is, okay, now we have it, we need to activate it consistently and believe in the power of repetition. Because if I tell you, ta-ra-ta-ta-ta, you know what is coming. Is it the best jingle in the world? No, it's quite silly, right? But it's been there for 60 years. And you almost start salivating. You have an indulgence. You know that you want nuggets or something. It's because it's been developed so consistently for such a long amount of time.
Love it. So if there's someone who's listening to this and they're like, I want to get in a room with everyone that that is important into your business, like everyone, and really figure out the direction, the vision, the goal, like all that iceberg underneath stuff, right? Really have a good understanding. Obviously, what you guys do, you can come in and do this externally. You kind of be the ones to facilitate that. Totally. That's right. But if a team wants to do that, they can come and go through this iterative process. Obviously, going to take longer because they don't have your kind of expertise. How are you? I just want to ask, like, how are you measuring? When you come and do brand work, brand consulting, strategic work, you wrote on your LinkedIn, I think you did a podcast recently, and you said LinkedIn is like a drug in reference to brand building. Lead generation is like buying attention versus generating attention. What do you mean by that when you're looking at like return on investment? Because a lot of companies, like, they'll throw ad spend, or they'll, what we do, we do a lot of outreach. We do a lot of work for companies to kind of help them generate leads. But what is the difference between saying buying attention versus what you call as generating attention? Can you go a little bit deeper on that?
Yeah. I think the fundamental of business building lays in sales and lead generation, right? So those are the fundamentals, and those are the fundamentals that any founder can understand really well. And so what's the difference between buying attention and generating attention? So lead generation and sales and all this like outreach, I call it buying attention, because you are competing into the market versus all the others to get the attention of a consumer that could be potentially interested in what you have to offer. potentially interested. That's a magic word, right? So you spend $10, and you're able to see how far those $10 went, right? We spent $10, we got back 15, we got a profit of 5, not too bad. Understanding, right? The CFO gets it, the CTO gets it, the CEO gets it. So you keep pouring money because you keep having results. The problem is that as soon as you stop pouring money for whatever reason, or as soon as you lower the budget for whatever reason, or as soon as your competitors outspend you for whatever the reason, you stop generating attention. So you are no more getting seen. You are no more into the eyes of a potential buyer, and that's it. You stop putting the $10, you are gonna get 0. So that's buying attention. Now, brand and brand marketing is generating attention, meaning that you create a system where the people that are in need or are potentially in need of your service, they find yourself, right? They come to you, they're attracted to you, they know about you. Or even better, when they will have a demand on which you can be the supply, you will be the top choice. And this is really important because there is a concept which is called the 95-5% rule. There is a study that proves that, especially in B2B, 95% of the people in the market right now, they are not interested in the offer that you are offering, right? Only 5% of them might be interested. So if we go outside and buy attention, there is a lot of fishing and a lot of hooks that will go empty because these fish are not hungry, right? So that there's a lot of wastage in that budget. Now think about like how many times during your lifetime have you bought a car? Like I wish that you buy a car every year, but I think me and you are normal people. Every couple of years, yeah, fair.
It's reasonable, yeah.
When you have a need of a car, I guess you have a couple of brands and a couple of models you already know.
For sure.
So that is the same concept, right? So we buy a car, let's say every 5 years, but once that 5th year approaches and we have a need for a car, we already know that we either want a BMW, we want a Mercedes, or we want a Fiat. We kind of know, because during those 5 years, BMW, Mercedes, and Fiat, they position themselves into our minds. We remember them. So when we have that demand, we know that that's a supply. If I tell you a red car, what is the first thing that comes into your mind?
My favorite car, Ferrari, my friend.
Here we go. If I tell you Red Bull, if I tell you, let's say vacuum cleaner, vacuum dryer, how you call it?
Hoover, right? I still say Hoover because it was the original. It was the original. That's the term. They even branded the term Hoover, and that was what it was called.
Give me a second one.
Dyson, probably with my mind.
Third,
Dyson. For stretching my my vacuum cleaning.
Here we go. That is the whole point, right? Humans have very limited RAM memory in their brain for when it comes remembering the top brands of a category. So the first one comes immediately. Like even when I'm not finished with my question, you already know the brand that you want to say. Second one comes a bit later. Third one really, really hard, right? So that is because those brands manage to own a little space of memory inside our brains, and so we recall them. So that's why it's important to manage that. I think sales and lead generation are super important, but we need to manage the relationship between that, because as brand grows, you can spend less and less in lead gen. Right? Brand is slow. It might take a couple of years to build, but once it's built, it becomes a flywheel. You start attracting better talent, you start attracting better investor, better clients, and by so you don't have to pour so much money into the lead gen and sales generation, right? Plus, a known brand makes the sales process easier. Right, so it's proven. There is a lot of research that if I know your brand and you're pitching it to me, there is a much higher chances of conversion. So there is tons of ROI. We can go into it if you want for the brand and branding. But overall that's the
Yeah,
relationship. It's
I
not
love it.
is never one versus the other. It's just like all things in life, it's about balance, you know.
Yeah. How do you allocate? I think it's probably a question I think would some be interested for audiences. Like, okay, two questions here, which are really interesting. How do
Yeah,
I do that on the most resource? Like, you've only got a certain amount of resources: it's money, time, people. Creativity could be a resource or a bandwidth.
yeah,
What is? And I'm not kind of looking for a magic bullet, but in a way, kind of curious. How can you get the most leverage around what you have in your already existing business to leverage brand, to leverage what you're talking about? Because that's what business owners struggle with. There's only so many resources and all these different things available to them. So versus say me, it's like, okay, you're a certain business. Obviously, it's all stage dependent, but I'm
yes,
really curious, as a general blanket, how can people get leverage on brand, and what should they be
yeah.
thinking about that they're not thinking about already that's available to them?
I think they need to start. As you said, depends from what this organization is,
For sure.
right? So, are you trying to understand, at what point this organization should invest into brand more or less, or
Yeah, so say there's a business, they're done probably $1 million in sales, a couple of mil,
yeah,
so smallerish company. They're now like, yep, we've got really solid foundations. We've got, good
brilliant,
lead gen coming through. We've got sales coming
yes,
through. We want to grow and get to that next level. Branding is going to be a
yes,
big part of that. How can
yeah,
they leverage branding as something that they haven't thought maybe a part of their strategy? They've been very transactional. How can they start to
yeah.
leverage what they're doing in terms of branding? Like, what's the most quickest resource available to them, or where can they get the most value for money? Because that's what businesses look at, right? How can I get the
Yeah,
most
yeah.
value
I think
and return here?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Good point. I think they need to start they need to start from the beginning, right? They need to start from the strategy. If they're thinking about growing their business and going to the next level, and for now they are a one-story building, they need to make sure that they have a good foundation to sustain 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 story building, right? So they need to be sure that their foundation is solid, and that foundation in brand terms is the brand strategy: who we are, what we do, why we matter, why are we different, where we're going, and how we're gonna get there.
Mm.
If you as a founder are able to answer these six questions, then you're ready to go. Most of them struggle on the first question,
Mm.
who you are, why you matter, and what makes you different.
Mm. You also
And
said why you
that's
exist as well. That's one of the big ones
yeah,
you said
yeah,
before. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Those are simple questions,
Yeah,
very hard to answer,
for sure.
right? And that's what needs to be happening. But also, the average business founder who build a solid company from the operational point of view and the sales point of view usually has a limited understanding of brand, meaning that they will take shortcut, meaning that they will say
Mm.
things like, oh, it does not work in our industry, or this is what our leaders do, right? Or I want a brand like that. Those are the most toxic assumptions that you can have in terms of brand, because this is not how our industry works. Well, uh, why? I mean,
Yeah.
the whole point of branding, right? So activating a different perception is to do things differently,
Yeah.
standing out. But most of these leaders and most of these organizations, they try to replicate what already worked, because in business we like safety.
Mm.
The problem is that in branding, safety equals hiding, not branding. I see a lot of people that hide, they do not brand. They have same messaging, same website, same, even sometimes very similar names, very similar logos, very similar attributes. And chances are that in whatever market you are, the offer and the product that you are offering is not that similar, is not that different anymore.
Mm.
I think we
So
are living in an age where most of the products are the same, and what wins is the perception game. So what wins is the brand. So how can you be perceived differently? How can you matter more than all others, even if your product is the same?
yeah. So going like deep on community, right? These are things like I'm sure you talk about community. with your
Yeah.
community, building that presence, belonging, all these kind of things that connect to people. This is what I'm hearing. So I get that. What do you say is like the biggest opportunity that people maybe be missing? Like I loved how you said that people are just not, kind of the more elementary ones, elementary business. That's all their objections to it. Doesn't work. It's not. This is how we've always done it. All those objections. But where's like for the people who are like, yes, I get it, Martin. Like I understand. Like, what is the biggest opportunity right now? Do you think that people are not seeing when it comes to brand building, and why do people not take risks? Like, why are brands so resistant to actually showing? Because for me, it's like, yeah, great. Like, you'd want to position yourself as that. You'd want to take that risk and show your character as a brand and what you believe and stand for. Why more
Yeah.
brands don't do that? Why more brands thinking about that?
I think so. Let's take the first one. Like, what is a hidden opportunity that organization miss? I think it's developing ownable assets, and ownable assets are by definition different. The KFC colonel that we said before, just do it, think differently, whatever, right? And per se, those assets are not revolutionary. Like they're different, they're simple, but they're consistent and they're unique. So when we're talking about that, I think it's a twofold question. One is like creating something truly unique and ownable that it's only yours, right? So what is it that can be truly our representation, and how can we stick to it for the longest period of time? So again, we're tapping back into differentiation. Understand all our competitors, right? Understand our market, understand the trend, understand the world dynamics. So keep zooming out, zooming out, zooming out, right? Have a really good understanding of all these factors, and then have the courage to do things differently. Have the courage to piss someone off so someone else can help us, can love us. We are obsessed with political correctness. We are obsessed with vanilla messaging. We are obsessed with the gray areas. The worst thing that you can do is to not have an opinion, to not stand for something, to not showcase something worth seeing and remembering. I see a lot of brands there that are they're just saying something but really not saying anything. Oh no, we shouldn't be doing this. Oh no, we shouldn't be doing that. They don't know how to behave because they don't have a strategy that helps us understand where they stand in the world. We hate vanilla people. Like your friends are interesting because of all different aspects, right? And they're quirky, and there is the fun one, there is the sad one, there is the always angry one, there is the one that always says the jokes that are mean but they're fun, and we love that guy. Every one of them has something that makes you relate to it. Brands should be the same, right? So they need to stand for something, and by stand for something, we need to have the courage to be different, and by having the courage to be different, we need to have a strategy and understanding of brand, and be okay by someone hating us, because if no one hates you, no one really loves you. That is the reality.
Yeah.
Right? And the other, what was the other question? I forgot. I think it was a twofold.
Yeah, it was twofold. It was the biggest opportunity. I think you answered that.
Yeah.
The biggest opportunity of people they're sleeping on, and then the other question is actually good question. I actually think I lost my own question.
It was a good one. I remember. I said I'm gonna go with the first one, and I want to go, and then I'm gonna go back to that one. So that differentiation, right? That's the best. That's the basic, and then we do a lot of research, right, with our clients, right? One of the things that I love about this work and is that like I become a subject matter expert of the clients we help. I know about gaming, I know about gambling, I know about beer, about souvlaki, about where in Cyprus they prefer tzatziki and where in Cyprus they prefer tahini in their souvlaki. I know aluminium extrusion, the profiles, all this kind of things is fascinating. One thing, it's true to any industry, and I think this would be really useful for your listener. The average human takes 3,000 decisions every single day, from changing the toilet paper because it's finished, to getting the kids to work, to sending this email. I don't know. We are busy. Even on a normal day, we make 3,000 decisions. Plus, we see on an average 7,000 to 10,000 brands daily. We are overstimulated, overscrolled, tired, itchy eyes, back of the head migraines. We have it all, right? We are a really tired human population at this day and age. No one has time to decipher your brand. You have 7 seconds to tell these people why you matter, why you're better than the others. That's all you got. Meaning your best friend is simplification. Good brands, great brands are simple brands. That will not change because we ain't getting any less busy. We never gonna have more than 24 hours. So that will not change. And I think it's actually becoming increasingly more complicated. So differentiation and simplification, just
Yeah.
tattoo it on your wrist, print it on your reception back wall, whatever. Those are stuff that you can, with confidence, obsess on it because they will not go away anytime soon.
Yeah, I absolutely love that because I know it's like, say I'm doing a lot of like branding on LinkedIn and you do too. And the more complicated you try to make your message, I mean, there's obviously authored up, there's like a writing tool which tells you like what grade English your post is. And by keeping it around like grade 6 to 3, which is a low, right? But that's simplification, right? Because it's not that people are dumb, far from it. It's people are overstimulated. So they're getting so much stimulation. You need to be super simple. And obviously, I think you also talked about a lot in this podcast is about repetition. And I know you stand for that a lot. Constant repetition. You think you've said it 1,000 times, but you've got to say it 1,001, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 times, right? Keep
100%.
repeating that message because people doesn't get through to them, right? It takes time. It takes time to make that impact.
Yeah, it's credibility, right? So be credible, be consistent, and have a cadence, right? Consistency and cadence are different because consistency you're saying the same thing, cadence you're saying it frequently in the same times, right? And that is really true for personal brand because like I try my best to post at least every other day around 9 a.m. Cyprus time, so 7 a.m. UK time, which is my other biggest audience. And sometimes I have people texting me, "Hey Martin, why haven't you posted?" Right? Because they kind of expect to see something during that time. But as you were saying really, really well, right? These people are busy, so they will forget about you. And then repetition works because let's not forget the 95% rule, where only 5% of the consumers are in the market for what you're offering. Like a lot of the people in my network, they might not need me now, but they might need me in 5 years. What I want to be in 5 years is top of mind. How I do that is by building my brand consistency.
Yeah.
Right. You see how everything connects. So it's brand is really good for business. I'm not saying that broken bootstrapping startup should go and spend 100,000 on branding and brand strategy. I think they have other needs at that point, right? Yeah. Investment, go to market, validating their product. So there are other things, but it's inevitable. If you want to lower your acquisition cost, higher conversion rates, faster sales cycle, you want to price a premium on a product that is the same, you want to retain customer longer, you want to gain market share, you want to attract the right people, and you want to be perceived different from a saturated market. You have to build a brand, and like I am sure any founder will say yes to any of those, right? And those are answers that brand and branding brings.
For sure. We've got a few more minutes. You okay to go for a few more minutes? We've gotten
absolutely.
AI. I just want to pivot a little bit to
Yeah.
AI because I think no podcast should be missing, in my opinion, now around talking about at least some version of AI. And there's a lot of
topics.
Hot topic, a lot of hype. But so I have a question to kick it off from AI. I downloaded 6 months of your posts, which is very easy to do. I could have probably done more, but I think I won't overwhelm my AI too much. And I got
I'm sorry for that.
And I got it to ask a question. And I prompted it by saying, what question would you ask Martin if all the information on branding was lost ever? And this is what it said. It's quite a long one. Given that memory, this is what you said, given that memory equals margin, what is the single most impactful yet overlooked element of branding that consistently drives long-term recall and preferences in
Yeah.
increasingly saturated and distracted markets. This is
Yeah.
said by Manus AI, by the way. Let's give it credit.
Yeah. It's a great question, and I think we went on it with the unique ownable assets, right? So those immediate, visible, or even behavioral, or tactile, or audio brand elements that connect that brand to the experience of that brand. I'm not a big fan of McDonald's, but since we were singing the jingle during the podcast, like, I have McDonald's when I'm tipsy, right? So for me, McDonald's is indulgence, right? It's naughtiness and indulgence. And now, I can start smelling it because I'm thinking about it. I can smell it, and I smell the hot packaging paper that is holding the nuggets has a very specific smell. So when I hear da 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 da, I have memories of nights out with my friends at a pub, or coming back from the club, or drive through with strangers, and late night conversations, because of a 1.5 seconds jingle. How mad is that? Right? That is such a powerful branded asset that McDonald's owns, that repeated constantly for the longest period of time, that immediately generate an emotional connection and sometimes generate desire. Right?
Yeah.
Have you ever
Like anchoring,
woken
right?
up?
Like
It's
anchors
such
you
a good
into,
anchor.
yeah, it
It
anchors you.
anchors you into that experience. You know exactly what you're getting, and that goes back into having something different, having something consistent, and repeating it for the longest period of time. And even if you like, we can do an exercise of thinking about, if Nike was to launch an hotel chain. I think that we have a pretty good idea how the hotel will look like, you know, in terms of the window display, in terms of the reception, the experience, and that kind of things. And again, it's absurd to think about it because Nike will never do an hotel. But if we're going to do an hotel, you kind of know what to expect. Apple dropped the car project, right? But we kind of knew what we were going to get with an Apple product, right? If Apple was going to make that car, you kind of already can imagine how it will more or less look, what will be the experience, and then goes back into being consistent and having something unique. But I think, yeah, brands should stick to something that is able, as you said, to anchor that brand to that experience, and drive demand, drive desirability, drive a need that maybe wasn't there. Because after all, we are emotional beings. And there is a very interesting study by the Harvard Business School that studied and said that like 95% of the purchases we make are driven by emotion, to the point that people that had damage on the emotional side of the brain were unable to make purchase decision. And it's true, because
Yeah.
we buy shit that we might not need, and then we justify it. We go back to our wives and we said, oh, but it was in offer, or it was 2 for 1. Oh, we needed a new one. Our other one was older. That is your rational brain coming into play after you already opened the wallet.
Yeah, too late. You want to justify with that logic. So we've got a few more minutes. I just want to be really respectful of your time. I have a thesis of AI, which is developing daily because it's changing. I think every company at some point will need to be thinking about having some head of AI or head of AI champion, at least in their business.
I agree.
What are you guys thinking? How are you thinking about AI now, and what impact are you thinking is going to happen on branding? I know you showed some LinkedIn posts,
Yeah.
but how do
Yeah.
you think that will impact on branding in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think large language model now are just scratching the surface in terms of AI. Right now, we have agentic release from ChatGPT, so it's starting to happen a bit more on the interesting surfaces of AI. I think from what I can see, AI now, there is a lot of bad utilization of it. It made average work, especially from the branding perspective and the creative perspective, very very common. So, for the lack of a better word, there is more shit around. Which is good, because people that do good work, they stand out. And I think I agree with you. I think AI is here to stay. Every organization will have to implement it. It's a bit like electricity, right? At the beginning, oh my God, we're going to lose jobs. my father is that guy that every morning at 3 a.m. goes in the street and lights up the lamps. Oh my God, he's going to lose the job. What are we going to do? Electricity will take over. We just into it, like it happened. I think AI will be the same. From the brand perspective, more from the brand perspective, I think is very useful for research, for comparison, competitor analysis, SWOT analysis. There's a lot that you can do. But brand or branding, so managing who you are and why you matter, and then communicating it to touch points. What is telling me, my assumption is that execution will become cheap and everyone will be able to do that execution. Mm-hmm. Everyone will be able to create a brand guideline and a brand strategy document and an identity. What will matter is the idea behind it, mm-hmm. right? So good ideas are able to become greater ideas thanks to AI. Average idea will be average idea, and everyone is able to do it. And shit ideas are shit ideas, and that will never change. But my learning from AI and using different models and playing it around, like we use it all the time, like literally changed my life. I wouldn't be able to go back to a world without AI. Is that it's very simple. Quality of input equals quality of output. We might take 10 different people with the same brief in what to do with this AI model, the same language model. We will have 10 different outputs, right? So again, it goes back to that fundamental idea, right?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's been my experience with it. If you prompt it, it's like there's everything has a code. AI has a code, and if you prompt it correctly, you can generally get the right output. Yeah. So it's quality input, quality output. I think we've kind of hit the time, so I just want to say thank you for coming and chatting with us. It was a really good conversation. I really enjoyed it. How can people find out about you, Factory 39? Where can people find out about Martin?
Yeah. Most of my work, writing, thinking, networking happens on LinkedIn. So I usually try to reply to everyone that ask a question there or wants to connect. So go find me on LinkedIn and we'll take it from there.
Perfect.